right, so with the board's permission, I'd like to take our 10 a.m. number 2 appointment, since we have a number of people here to discuss that as well.
10 a.m. Item 2, discussion and direction to staff on the contracting process for the Lake Tulloch Marina and Campground Facility operations.
Good morning, Board. Mark Fisher from the County Administrator's Office. I'd like to preempt this by simply saying I'm pleased about the pace at which we've gone about doing this. Sometimes when we're presented with a problem that affects a lot of people, our processes can kind of slow us down. However, I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. I'm proud about the process. I'm proud about the work that we put in working with the community to try to find a solution. But there's other things to consider too. But let me start by simply reminding you. You already know this, but this issue started at first with the threat of the invasive golden mussel that was found in the river delta, led to the temporary prohibition of launching boats in Lake Tulloch in 2025. And without getting too much into the timeline on this, ultimately it led to the departure of the South Shore Campground concessionaire. Now that Tridam has an established procedure for launching boats that includes banding, decontamination, and quarantine, the county doesn't have an agreement in place to facilitate the use of the boat launch and the decontamination station. When the concessionaire finally left, that actually started leading to a tremendous amount of increased calls for concern from members of the public, citing concerns of vandalism, trespassing, wildfire risk, as well as negative economic impacts to the local economy and some individual property owners. In response to this, we started meeting with some of the concerned people, and we came up with some options for an expedited solution involving a short-term temporary agreement for really scaled-back operations for the operation of the boat launch and the decontamination station, and possibly small-scale operations of the campground rentals and other uses of the property. So when I say it moved a little bit fast, it occurred to me that perhaps we shouldn't be moving quite so quickly without at least having a conversation with your board about whether or not you wanted to proceed with this temporary agreement or go out for an official procurement process. So we have a couple of options. If we go with this temporary contract, it does provide some immediate relief of the issues relating to the vacancy and opens up the ramp for recreation use. So, there we can bring somebody in that can bring the weeds down, and there'll be a presence at the area that will, hopefully reduce the amount of people that go down there and, camp without authorization, trespassing, etc. The only thing is that there really is no way to know, because this process moved very quickly. I would say within two weeks, we came to. I was drafting a contract that was ready to just have a temporary concessionaire added to the signature line. There's really no way for me to be sure that all potential interested parties that might want to take on this responsibility have been contacted and given an opportunity to discuss their options with us. So if we go out for RFP, we're fully in line with our regular procurement process and allows all vendors to prepare comprehensive plans for full-scale operations long-term, and it skips over this interim period. Unfortunately, the additional time that it would require will likely keep the site closed for at least some or possibly all of the 2026 summer recreation season. So we're missing out on TOT revenue, and it'll have a negative economic impact. If your board opts for the temporary solution, staff would immediately work to finalize the agreement that we had been working on and bring it back for approval at the next board meeting. And if your board opts to instead go for a formal procurement process, we would immediately resume work on an RFP for the site that with a tentative goal for an agreement mid to late August. That said, I want to I want to be clear that I am sensitive to the concerns of the people that are down there. There are people whose some of the concerns that people have cited is that my property is very close to this place. What if it catches fire? I'm very frightened. Things like that. And then there are other people who have Airbnbs and who are losing out on a tremendous amount of revenue because nobody wants to rent a lake house if they can't launch their boat and have their boat on the water. And so I am sensitive to that, but I do have concerns about, again, I'll restate the fact that I can't be certain that all people that might be potentially interested in this contract have been contacted because of how quickly everything went. That said, if I were in your shoes, this is tough to say because I'm really concerned about both sides, but if I were in your shoes, I would go out for RFP. That would be my choice, but I look forward to the discussion to be had, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
All right, thank you. Well,
Can I add a couple of things?
oh, yes, sir, sorry.
Just a few updates from the last week. We have installed a few security cameras that are being monitored by a few staff. I've already engaged our probation work crew to go out and weed eat currently. Last time I was there, I would say that the weeds are somewhere between 1 foot to 2 feet tall. So the need to have that done is pretty vital. So they're gonna put that on their calendar to do. We also are looking at some options with putting some gates up, some automatic gates that will allow the residents to enter and leave as they need to, but would prevent other cars that aren't authorized to enter the property. We have seen a few vehicles come and go. A lot of people come down, not a lot, a few come down and just walk around on the beach or use the dock, not to boat, but to kayak. But we definitely have some cleanup we have to do. The concessionaire removed majority of the floating docks, also removed all the water tanks. The condition of the water filtrations is in question. So there are some things that we have to do in order to operate. And so those things will happen, whether we choose to go to RFP or whether we choose to sign a temporary contract for this summer. So I think that's all I have to add.
Thank you. I went quickly. I skipped over some of those things.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll bring it to the board for questions. Supervisor Brandon?
Great, thank you. I do have concerns that some of the stuff taken off site there effectively is theft, and issues on how that RFP closed with it. One question is, would it help so obviously the state, we are dealing with a significant issue. Golden mussels is a significant issue. I'm worried about county liability. I'm also worried about what they could do long-term to our watershed. They are limited right now to the Central Valley, but if they were to come up, they seem to be thriving in these kind of calcium poor waters that they normally, other ones, zebra mussels, didn't do. So my question is, in that sense, would it be more helpful in protecting us if we were to pursue option one, if we were to declare effectively a state of emergency or emergency preparedness, where we are saying we are doing something that is non-traditional? We may not choose a long-term RFP. We are taking action right now to make sure that there is a manager on site, not simply for operating the campground and the recreation, but for the fact that an unmanned operation that was historically known for boating, that then is basically left vacant, is an avenue for having somebody say, screw it, I'm just going to put my boat in the water, right? That this is taking away all the other benefits we get out of this. We are doing an emergency measure to protect the reservoir from an invasive species. I know that is all scrambled up there, but the point being is there's something we can do to show that this is an emergency, basically measure that we are taking to protect the resource, which I think is accurate, right? I mean, really, the camping, recreation, all of that is kind of secondary to a site manager running a decontamination station and site control, access control.
I think I'll leave it to county council to see if we can do an emergency measure. But I will say that I do believe that if the board chooses to go through the entire RFP process, then the boat launch is going to be closed for a longer period.
Right.
We will have to look at options of securing the ramp further than what it is today. It is blocked, but we would have to look at some way to secure it more thoroughly, and we would have to put a process in place to increase the monitoring. The sheriff's office has already been involved. They've increased patrol, I believe, out there. I've been on site with sheriff's deputies just to verify that we do have the ability to trespass if we need to. So I think there's some options, but I believe the county council will answer if we could do an emergency order or not.
I just point out that this is considered recreational property, and the government code does allow your board by a 4/5 vote to dispense with the requirement, put this out for a competitive bid, enter into a lease or a concessionaire agreement. So your board should be comfortable doing that if it needs to. I don't believe an emergency is needed.
No, we are doing, it's only whether it is a short-term or a full RFP for the concession agreement. Am I understanding that correct?
Correct.
Right, and so I think that's the point you're bringing up is here's the concern. There are multiple entities interested in the recreation kind of side of it. There are other entities who have legal counsels that are concerned on the water side or are concerned on the facility side. And I'm worried that if we don't have everything T's crossed, I's dotted, we end up in something because they simply don't want any recreation on the lake whatsoever. There are other entities that could use it that way. So your point about we should do an RFP because that's the safest makes a lot of sense to me, unless we've got something else that really says like, no, we can't do an RFP because that would be irresponsible. We had to do an emergency measure to protect the resource. Anyway.
I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily say not going out to RFP is irresponsible. We would simply have to take other measures to make it so that people couldn't launch boats.
Yeah, as an interim measure. So I'll just leave that. So I would be interested in option one. And if there's anything that sits there, if not, and we'll just ignore it.
I should just add,
Yeah.
because I should have said this, but when we used that authority before, it was usually when we wanted to sole source, we already had authority to dispense with something like that. Or, in this case, it would, if your board did by 4/5 vote do a temporary contract, it would be on the premise of doing an RFP. So I didn't mean to say that your board would just across the board dispense with an RFP for this, but it would allow your board to enter into the temporary agreement without fear of liability for that.
Sounds good. And I think in some way or another, I got all my thoughts out, and if anything's useful in there, have it for consideration. So I'd be in support of option one. I would like to see, I feel like October is a very short time frame. It would be nice for anybody who is coming in, any upfront investments, to know that this could be, for example, renewed annually for up to 3 years, again, as still a temporary contract. If that is something that's possible, I think that'd be great. If we're really implementing it in the middle of May and it only goes to October, I wonder how that really works with just feasibility of like, if you even had to order a dock, would it be there by October? I mean, who would want to put any investment into that if it's that short of a period? Like there's no hope of necessarily in the contract an extension if they follow everything that we would want. So that would be my only recommendation. Option one, but offer a little bit longer time on fulfilling the agreement. Thank you.
That was the longest question ever asked.
Yep.
Just so you know. So, Supervisor Campbell.
Are we doing questions or?
I prefer to just do the questions and then.
Well, no, 'cause I agree with a lot of what Supervisor Brandon said, so that's why I was. But as far as questions, when is the last time we ever went out to RFP for?
For this,
yeah,
it's been a very long time.
Since before the last.
Yeah,
concessionaire,
so
right?
the previous agreement was renewed, I think, in 2023.
Okay.
But they're very long agreements. They're 10 years with optional 5-year extensions.
Not renewed. I mean, when we actually went out to RFP and solicited for, say, ideas from different concessionaires for what they'd want to do with that.
It's been quite a long time.
Okay. Like decades or?
Possibly decades, yeah.
Okay.
I believe
And
it was
then.
in the 90s. I think it was in the 90s or early 2000s. I don't remember.
As Jaron likes to say, before him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
92.
92, okay. So since, as long as Jaren's been around. So with the one thing that's missing from these options that you're giving us is what is the fiscal impact of operating on a short-term basis?
Okay.
Yeah, or is that going to cost more than the current contract did, or are we paying more to do that on a temporary
Yeah,
basis?
so there is going to be costs incurred by the county no matter what we do.
Right.
But if we do a temporary contract, the contract's going to basically identify what the startup costs would be, and we would not collect any revenue until whoever does the temporary contract recoups their startup costs.
Okay.
But we would go to the same structure as what we have in our current contract until we go out to RFP. I think it's 15% of the revenue after that.
Well, and because that raises the question, if it's in the contract that they are able to recoup their startup costs, but we're only going on a temporary basis, what if that temporary contract ends before they've recouped their contract costs, and then we go out to RFP? Now they would have a grievance against the county because they haven't been able to recoup their costs, and
I think
presumably they're making an
we put that in the
investment in
contract
that facility that then they're not able to recover costs for.
Yeah, that's the liability that whoever took the temporary contract would have to take on, knowing that they may not recoup their costs. But if we're really talking about a reduced amount of services, so the entire campground won't be open, we don't anticipate the entire campground will be open. Our main goal is to get the decontamination station up, get people certified to use it, and to have hours for that service, and to get the boat docks, the boat ramp open and the docks used. Beyond that, that would be whoever the temporary concessionaire's choice to do anything beyond that. Yeah. And I think they could recoup the cost for that fairly quickly. Yeah,
because I guess it's just my concern. I'm looking more at, we're already in middle of May, and the season's not looking. I don't know. I'm skeptical about how quickly we'll be able to get up and running for this season. So I would almost favor just taking more time and doing it right than making, is our primary goal to get it up and running again as quickly as possible? I guess I should address this to my colleagues. Is our primary goal to get this up again and running as quickly as possible, or to get it up and running again and resolve these fundamental issues that we've been having? And there's a lot of issues.
I think your mic's fuzzy. So why don't we do this? Why don't we have the members of the public come up and talk?
Yeah.
And then we can kind of kick this around. Because obviously there's only three of us, so we're going to have to be united one way or the other. All right, so we'll cut it. Members of the public. Come on up, Joe. That's right. Joe and I go way back. You used to yell at me all the time. How are you, sir? Likewise. How's the family?
Good morning. My name is Joe McGrath. I have a partner, George Pineda, and I was the original concessionaire from 1992 till 2004 at Lake Tulloch Campground and Marina. I sold it to John in 2004. I then went up to Steve's Country and opened Yosemite Ridge Resort up there. So I had 12 years at Tulloch, 15 up there with a campground, restaurant, store, gas, similar operation. We are interested in doing the short term. We don't want to, but we understand the need for it. I could caution you also that it should not be vacant. And I'm really glad to hear about the cameras, Roger. But bad experience in 91, 92. They kicked the old concessionaire out in November, December. It was vacant until we got there in February. And the place was just absolutely trashed. They stole everything, wiring, plumbing, flagstones off the patios, flowers, just crazy. And there was a lot of people camped out down there illegally, so it was a mess. And not saying it would be that way now, but just to caution you. George was there for 20 years. He ran the boat rental, gas dock, restaurant, and store. And that's what he's been doing for 20 years. He recently restaurant that he and his wife owned in Copperopolis. And we got together. We both love Lake Tulloch, and this is more a labor of love than economic return. I don't think economic return is going to be there short term, but on the other side of the coin, we do have the ability to get the place open. Initially, boat launch and gate and such as we spoke about, but then to get the restaurant and the store and the gas dock and the boat rentals going again, probably by 4th of July weekend. So there's already a plan in place, but some obstacles. The big one right now today would be there's no water up there. They sold the water towers, excuse me. So there is no water up there to operate the station or anything else. So that's the first priority, and the first expense is putting a new water tower or towers in there and getting them hooked up and the system set up. So
All right.
That's really high priority.
All right, Joe, at that point, it's that 3 minutes, so I have to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. Encourage maybe one of your other partners to come up and talk and kind of pick up where you left off.
Yeah, I was pretty much, that's the big obstacle for us to start with is that it's going to be 6,000-7,000 easy.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. The water tower thing is news to me. So is that the case? There were water towers there that.
Yes, that was going to be one of the things I was going to bring up, is that apparently the docks and the water tower and some of the decontamination areas have all been stolen.
Because I heard about the I didn't know that the water so the tanks that would feed the cleaning station
Correct.
are gone.
And everything else.
Yeah, so there's going to be probably a legal issue. Without getting into too much, I probably should not have used the word stolen because there's some question on whether or not they were the property of A or B. So that's going to be a question that we're going to have to address as well there. So, but I was going to bring that up in a moment. But
Yeah, because the water tanks, they weren't even the counties. They were part of that deal with fishing, with Tri-Dam and Fish and Game to have the cleaning station there.
right, we're going to have to unpack a little bit here.
Okay.
So, sir, thank you.
My name is Dylan. I work on Lake Tulloch doing dock repair and dock maintenance. So this whole situation with the ramp closing does really affect my business. That's one of our main access points to get stuff into the lake and out of the lake efficiently. We're really happy that you guys are doing something with this decontamination because that really would affect my job if there was mussels that got into our lake. Anything that George and Joe need as far as like dock repairs, maintenance, anything like that, my company can take care of, and we fully support them in whatever they do.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Once again, I get to address this board. I feel like I've been up here quite a bit in the last few weeks. So as my time clicks away, I just want to, on behalf of the homeowners and the vacation rentals, everybody I've talked to supports this 100%. We're taking a risk too as well, making sure that we get somebody proper in there that's going to run the campground through this limited time. As far as revenue impact, myself, I incurred about $50,000 plus in lost Airbnb revenue. This is times about 6 vacation rentals that I know and have spoken to specifically. This is a community approach. I don't think anybody else is going to want to jump in and do this big investment for such a short-term time. So when we look about who's going to going out for a proper procedure, we've all discussed that, and it is a big risk that only the community and those who love Lake Tulloch are going to take. One of the concerns I have with completely closing the ramp is no emergency services can get in and out as well as recreational holders. This group has the experience, as you know, Joe. He's been here. He's done that. George has as well, which is why we all have the faith in them. Question about the docks. Dylan just popped in here. He has docks ready to go to install. The tanks, this group has already gotten bids for plumbing to fix it and to get the tanks in as well. They are moving fast and they're ready to go. We see this as a limited cost for the county. And what this is also doing is reducing a massive risk that Mr. Brandon spoke to as well for the county. So as you guys consider this, I hope you look at all these different points too. Thank you guys so much for your time once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone showing up today. My name's Isaac Flores. I just want to address that all the concerns are very important to us. We understand that the investment, we'd like to keep efficient, minimal in order to recoup the investment. But we do have the team. We do have been listening to the concerns of what's necessary with the decontamination station. We're ready as far as getting some kind of agreement going so that we can get the certifications necessary in order to keep this continuously running. We know there needs water. We need to check into all the pipes, things like that, utilities and things that need to be done in order to get started. And we do have the resources to do that. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to open up today. Anything that is necessary and needed to follow compliance of all the companies involved, we're willing to work with. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any further public comment? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for discussion and vote. Supervisor Marina.
Great, thank you. I kind of see two stages with this. I mean, we do have a temporary stage right now. It will take time for the state. I think also, they put $1 million into a fund to address this, but to really have a serious extermination campaign when it comes to golden mussels and eradication plans and that, it's going to be a long time. So I'm in support of option one. I would, again, recommend we allow renewal if that is possible within that. I also think, and I appreciate all the comments of being willing to step up on this. This is a county recreation, facility there. This is a concession we're talking about. The idea of we don't know what's there, but the wires might have been stripped, the plumbing taken out, that type of thing. I don't think it is right that folks would step up to put their capital at risk. And then if, it ends in October and it's not a great season, or maybe there aren't as many people coming up, you guys take a loss on that. Ultimately, it is a county facility. Also, it makes it, I think, legally kind of complicated of who owns what. So I would hope, and I agree with the plan, as long as it is operating, waiving the fees in the sense that the fees are paying back basically the initial investment. If that was to end, I think that the county should basically be able to either forgive a loan or pay out the equipment that is on site, so long as it is operationally required improvements. You want to go put a cool water slide in or something, you guys can do that. If it's docks, if it's plumbing, if it's decontamination station, if it's pavement, those are types of things that really we're taking care of our asset, and then you are going to manage that. So that would be my recommendation. We do have some type of backstop. I don't want this to be great right now and loss of energy and then be really crappy in 6 months or a year when everybody's like, hey, where'd $50,000 go? We didn't get anybody. And that's a possibility in this. So
my 2 cents is, and it looks like it might come down to Supervisor Campbell on the swaying the vote here, because I'm of the mind of option two. I listened to staff and I've listened to the people who have made their, the statements, and I feel for them. However, I don't think rushing, and that's, I'll air quote that, rushing into this contract is in the best interest of the county. And more importantly, as we heard, is, should there be a loss, I don't think that's a county responsibility either. Yeah, I agree with you that we are trying to do something, but part of their business model, whomever it might be, is going to come in and rebuild it and do what they're going to do and then get paid back at it. We're not going to take anything until they are made whole. So I don't know. I don't want to set the precedence that we say, hey, go do this on behalf of the county. It didn't work out. We're going to cover your cost, which is what I think I heard you say.
Well, I think the hypothetical would be they go in, they put in $100,000.
Right.
The contract ends in October. They didn't pay enough in fees, which would be, $1 million in
Right.
business. The issue it creates is they technically own it. They might then be able to take that off. So either they eat the loss and the county gets these assets that we didn't necessarily choose, or they don't eat the loss, they take the stuff with them, and we're back to this situation, which is it got scavenged, rather
Right.
than we're simply paying for the improvements and we own them and it's very clear.
Right.
So I do think it's unique in this because, anyway.
No, I hear what you're saying. And so, that's why I think, unfortunately, and there's a ton of history, right? There's a ton of history that is out there that has, we've not really discussed about past contracts and transferred contracts and being out of contract with the state. I mean, there's a ton of things here. So my position is that from the people that I've spoken to is that they would rather have this county do it right, the correct way. Staff has said that going out for RFP or option 2 is the correct way. So I'm leaning that way. But however, with that being said, not to put any pressure onto Supervisor Campbell here, but if there is a 2-to-1 or what have you, I want them to be successful. I want people to use it. I'm just very concerned that we're taking steps now to hurry up that might impact us not only just this year, but into the next year as well.
Well, and so to that point is eventually we're looking to get to a place where we're putting out an RFP, right? With both of these options. Okay. So the only difference is that we're trying to get a temporary concessionaire in there right now. So I guess some clarity on that, because I don't want to see the county paying a concessionaire to fill in temporarily. That's kind of what I thought I heard.
So, and I should have clarified on this. I think if we are covering that cost, the equipment is ours in that sense. If we are paying it either through waiving of the fees over time, or if the contract ends and we are basically absorbing all of that cost, it would keep it clean because we would then maintain all of the equipment. They're left harmless financially in that sense, but we also don't end up with a stripped site. So it wasn't so much a gift of money to operate the concession. It was, we're fixing up facilities through them that we own, and we will own it afterwards.
That we currently own, and we...
And I will say that that's more complicated. That was more just a general thought to staff. I think the root of what I'm asking for is, like you said, a 2-stage temporary contract that then later is moving into a full RFP, but immediately right now looking at an option 1.
Well, because that's why I have a concern with that, because if what you're doing in that scenario is tying yourself to a particular plan of action, which is one of the big benefits of going out to RFP, is you get a large swath of people with a lot of different ideas that are presenting proposals. And if we've already locked into the county is going to purchase XYZ equipment and facilities and pay to maintain that, then we are, before the RFP process, establishing who's going to pay for what. And so retooling that I see as one of the benefits of going out to RFP. But I don't know, like I said, you're more knowledgeable about that facility than I am. And so, I'm willing to go with option 1.
I think
but I'm not sure about the purchasing of the equipment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's just an idea on it. I'll say the biggest concern that I have is, again, I think the RFP, I am concerned about any litigation or anything on that. An RFP would be the right thing, except it will take time, and that will be time that this is effectively not managed. We may have sheriff's deputies going out and doing patrol. We may be able to trespass people, but that is going to be on a call basis or a few times a day. This is not going to be somebody on site 24/7 and at night. And so that's kind of the worry there. Is it's easy for a place to get burned down, place to go have a crazy party that gets wild, or somebody to simply just cut the lock or go into the lake with their boat anyways. So
you're saying that is one of the reasons to do the temporary.
To do the temporary first.
Okay.
I do think. I mean, if we want to get away from this. It is constantly seeming to be transfers of temporary concessions that don't go out to RFPs when it comes to this lake. I agree that that's not a good way to do it.
But I think that's it I think you hit it right on the button, is that we're trying to rush something because we're trying to salvage this season, right? As opposed to doing what government is supposed to do is stop, send it out to RFP, make sure that we're doing it the right way the first time.
Well, and maybe here's an informing question. How long so if we said long-term RFP, with the management that is currently happening, which is, again, good but sporadic, it's not 24/7, it's not constant, how long before we would see that RFP come back to the board with a winning bid that we would then basically choose? I mean, do we have a 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months?
We can do.
So what I had proposed when I was speaking earlier is a tentative agreement coming to the board by mid to late August. That is a pretty big estimate. There's a lot of thought that needs to go into a long-term agreement, because we're talking 10 years, multiple 5-year extensions, things like that. This is a big deal, and so it would take a lot of time, a lot of thought to do it correctly.
So
There
3
you
months.
go. A lot of thought, a lot of time to do it correctly. That's the key there.
Right.
And how much money would be lost in terms of concession? Like, how much money is there to be made with that facility between now and August?
Can I get into another question? So our highest year for the entire year with the campground open was about 191,000 that came into the county.
So maybe half that.
So we won't even get half that. We'd be lucky to get maybe even tens to 20,000 if we were lucky, because I do not believe that temporary would be fully operational. A couple of other key things I think it's important for the board to know. No matter what happens, whether we go to RFP or whether we do a temporary solution, there is going to be some costs incurred by the county. I do think we have some responsibility to replace the water tanks. We have some responsibility to repair some of the docks. I believe, I'm glad to hear, because I believe the dock that has the pump on it is sinking. I was on site on Friday, and it was brought to my attention before Friday, and when I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, that one's like, it's bowed. So we've got stuff we have to do that hasn't been taken care of before we could even ask even a temporary person to come in and do some of that kind of stuff. With the water tanks and with some of the stuff and with the gates, estimating at least about $15,000 that we would have to do immediately. I did not include anything with dock repair because I wasn't aware of it at the time that we were looking at those costs. But I definitely think it's something that is necessary for us to do no matter what. Again, we'd have to do maintenance on the property throughout the summer too.
Where it started though was that the opportunity loss, or the loss of potential revenue, is pretty limited.
It is pretty limited. Yes.
For that period of time, we'd be working on the RFP.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think it's important to note too that the first Friday that it was vacated, we did have a party of about 20 people that came down and had a barbecue. And so obviously we didn't respond on that Friday evening. They were there for a barbecue and they left briefly, but it is a concern. There's trash that has been left on the property. I cleaned up some trash by one of the trash cans that was not there the Friday before. So obviously people are entering and using some of the facilities. Everything's locked, but as far as buildings and bathrooms and stuff, but the trash cans are still out.
Well, let's do it the easy way. Do we have a thumbs up kind of consensus on which way we want to go here? I know where Supervisor Brandon is. I'm of the other mind of option 2. Is there any way we can change your opinion to pump the brakes a little bit and let's do it right the first time?
Well, and it's, I imagine that we are immediately going to do an RFP in the similar time frame. It's just that 3 months. The idea of that 3 months not really being that managed while we have people who are actively wanting to do it doesn't make sense to me. So I'm not sure that there is, because really the difference we have is the reason that I think option 1 is important, and there's not kind of a middle ground that I can see. Maybe this is something that the short-term one can be brought back, you said next week. The RFP will take longer. This could be brought back to the next meeting, and then we will have 2 additional opinions in it to give a more clear direction on it, because it does seem like we're at a bit of an impasse.
Supervisor Campbell, any thoughts?
Is that mostly drafted already?
Yeah, I had the bulk of it drafted, but council and I were going to go through another pass. There's some things that need to be corrected.
Well, our choices are either A, B, or we table it, right?
I would say we should table it until the next meeting and then see, unless we want to do option 1.
If we do decide to table it, I'd like to bring it back with the contract completed for the temporary, and the board can decide if it's something they want to move forward with. We won't have the RFP fully drafted by next week, but we could have the contract probably fairly well drafted by next week, or if not complete by next week.
I'm good with tabling it.
I mean, I'm okay with going option one, but I mean, if we, there are these questions though still, so either way.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, like I said, I'm, you know, and even some of the, you know, one of the speakers said that they don't want to do temporary, right? Yeah. The first words he said is, we don't want to do temporary because they know that there's a high risk, and I can't expose the county to any further risk. We want them to be successful too, whomever it is. So I like the idea of coming back with the temporary, with the contract in front of us. That way we know what's going on. They know what they're presenting. And I think that's a safe bet. And like you said, we'll have two more.
Did you say the opposite?
Joe, did I mishear you?
I thought he said that he didn't want to do long-term, but he's willing to do temporary out of a labor of love, not wanting to do temporary, wanting to do this long-term.
So which one here? Well, I guess the question is, since I raised it, the question is, without putting you on the spot, sir, is that my interpretation is that you're willing to do this out of a labor of love, but you're really not interested in a short term. Supervisor Brandon kind of interpreted it the opposite, that it's a labor of love, but you're kind of okay with it being short term, with the fact that maybe, not to put words in his mouth, that there would be an RFP process later that you could apply for. Which one? Supervisor Brandon. Okay. All right. So with that being said, I mean, would you guys be okay if we can get that contract come back in a week? I know you don't want to, but it's part of the government. I think it's, well, there's no way we get it open between now and then. I would not go for that. If that was a condition, there's no way. With the water tanks, the plumbing, the electrical, the trash, the dock, the amount of liability that would have to go into that, making sure that we have people down there to inspect it, there's just, that would be a hard no for me. So I'm willing to work with you, but I just cannot take the chance of accidentally endangering somebody. But I do also agree to the gentleman who made the point about emergency services, making sure, so we do need to look at something. So I think right now, this is such a convoluted quagmire of a problem, and I agree with everything my colleagues have said. So maybe I think the best thing to do is table it, come up with the language, address the concerns about fire and emergency services, and maybe we can come up with a way to work with the community on delivering stuff, as that was brought up as well. Because I think there's a lot of things in play.
I'd also like to know what was on the property that is not on the property anymore.
Yeah,
we can get you that.
Yeah.
The royal Roger can get that.
We need to have conversations about some of that stuff too.
Right.
But I hate these muscles.
All right. So would my colleagues entertain the idea of a motion of table? I don't even know if we need a motion to table this until next week when we have all five of us here.
So moved.
All right. I will second that. If there's is that required?
But
all right. Do we need a vote on that?
Discussion and direction.
Vote it now that you've made the motion.
All right. We'll do it. So all in favor of tabling this, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains. Okay. All right, we appreciate everybody coming. I don't think you'll need to come back next week, but I'm sure we'll be in touch with you so you can hear it or you can listen in as well. All right. We can. So I know. So we do have our consent agenda, which is still left. I have to take a lunch break at 12:30. So I will ask my colleagues, can we get this done? Otherwise, we have to go to lunch, then we have to go to closed session, then we have to come back.
Can we clarify what was pulled off of consent?
Right now, the only thing that was pulled was item number 7. Well, I could correct that. Item number 8, number 7, but number 8 has been.
Number
Sorry, 8's
4.
been done. 7's been pulled.
Yep.
And then number 14 too is a
10 and 14.
10 and 14
10
were
and
pulled,
14, right?
No, I mean, I'm pulled as in we're not talking about them today.
Right, because they
Yeah.
require a 4/5 vote.
Correct.
And then number 7 was pulled for.
I just pulled it for the discussion of the easement.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's why I will pull
So
it.
you would want to talk about all of the consent calendar except for item 7.
Correct.
And then the ones that, okay.
Right. You think we can do it in 12?